call the honourable member for Wright.
I thank you, Mr Speaker, and thank you for your indulgence, and it's an honour to follow the member for Forest out of Western Australia, who we heard is possibly the only dairy farmer in the parliament, and she brings to this place an enormous insight into the industry. And I've had the privilege to go to Western Australia and visit the member's office, and can I say that not only is she an asset to this place, but you're an asset for your advocacy that you do in the industry, and you are well respected by your peers. Mr Speaker, I rise to speak on the Primary Industries Excise Levies Amendment Dairy Producers Bill, and in summary, it's a request. The bill is a summary. The bill is a request by the industry to take the cap off a levy to increase it, which I'll speak at later at length. I believe the bill, as it sits in the House at the moment, has support from both sides of the House. But it would be remiss, before I go on and speak at length about the bill and the intricacies of it, not to highlight the plight of Queensland dairy farmers, and in particular in the southeast corner. My electorate of Wright takes in just on 8,000 square kilometres, and we have seen our fair share of dairy farmers over the last couple of years exit the industry, and it's a travesty. Are they leaving the industry because of market conditions? Are they leaving it through natural attrition? I think the latest round of numbers highlighted that Queensland used to have in excess of 2,500 dairy farms. Today, we have less than 500. Shame. Less than 500. We have a situation where the dominance of the retail market is having a negative effect on our producers. Since the introduction of $1 a litre milk, we have seen an additional 100 dairy farmers exit the industry, and we have our largest producer, not only in our area, but if it's not the largest producer in Queensland, in a process of expressions of interest to sell his farm because he is no longer viable. Can I commend the work of the Queensland Dairy Organisation, in particular its chairman Brian Tessman, for the terrier-like approach that he has taken in taking the charge up to the retailers for the way that they are bastardising this particular sector. Can I also acknowledge the outstanding work done by his Deputy Chair, Ross McGuinness. Ross is probably a third-generation farmer in my electorate, and a true gentleman, an absolute true gentleman, and gives his time more than freely to help fight the cause, to help give me the tools to go into battle for their sector. Adrian Peake, the CEO of Queensland Dairy Organisation, has also been a wealth of knowledge. And to help give you an idea of the stress that these guys are under, I'm going to quote from a media release and some recent surveys that the Queensland Dairy Organisation, under the auspices of the gentleman that I've just alluded to. Recently, the Queensland Dairy Farmers Organisation conducted a survey as to the extent of the Queensland crisis, and they sent the survey to no less than 496 dairy farmers, and of which they received a 46% response. And the shocking data that come out of that is chilling, that almost 9 in every 10 Queensland dairy farmers lack confidence in the future of their industry. Now, if you translate that 9 out of 10 dairy farmers lack the confidence to continue to make long-term investment, and translate that to any other industry, it would be front-page headlines. The majority have a negative cash flow. The farm gate milk price will need to rise, estimated by the QDO, no less than 12 cents per litre before confidence can be renewed and fresh milk supplies are restored for the Queensland consumer. That was one of the key findings out of that survey. Queensland President Brian Tasman said that the survey was confirmation of the ongoing impacts and the confidence crisis hitting Queensland's industry, which has been rocked in recent years by floods, cyclones, milk price war, and now severe drought. Those others surveyed, in an alarming 87%, that they were uncertain or not confident in the future of the northern industry, and 97% were either uncertain or not confident in their own dairy business. And when you go beyond that survey and you try and understand why these guys are not confident about the future, you need not look any further than their cost of production. Their cost of production against what they get paid. The Queensland Government's Queensland Dairy Accounting Schedule report for the 2012-13 financial year reports that the cash cost of production in our area is 55.2 cents per litre, compared with the farm milk gate of 51.3 cents a litre, leaving the dairy farmers in the red. I mean, it is unplausible that we would have an industry who, on their weekly milk check, are unable to meet their daily, weekly operations. So when the money comes in, there is not enough to pay the outgoings on a weekly basis. So what farmers are doing is that they're drawing down on equity out of the assets of their property to try and maintain viability. The desperation of dairy farmers, in particular, and I'll use the example of some excellent dairy farmers in my electorate, Alan and Dolores Stock from the Lockyer Valley. It is painful to witness the uncertainty that on these people's face when they come to you and they say, as a government, what can you do to help us? They don't ask or advocate for a handout. That is not what they ask. But they ask just that, why is it that they can't go ahead when they see world prices for milk export at record highs? Why is it that we see processors bidding wars into the tens of millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars to buy profitable processing plants, and yet are these profits of retailers, processors, coming at the expense of our farm gate? Now, the economic purists will say, well, that's rationalisation of the market. Well, I challenge that theory in the fact that it is not a free market, because the principles of demand and supply would mean that with less supply would mean that there would be more demand, so the price would go up. That process is capped because of the $1 a milk. So it becomes a regulated market as such, a regulated market where the true effects of demand and supply are unable to roll out into their entirety. So it is of great concern for the likes of Alan and Dolores Stock, who I don't know are prepared to go on. I mean, the pain that they are under, unless as a government and as a parliament we can bring some pressure to bear to change their confidence levels, or at a minimum help them with the effects that their milk check is going to be greater than their outgoings. Their outgoings have virtually doubled over the last couple of years as a result of the droughts, the cyclones, the weather effects. Now, if I had a magic wand, I would order 100 mils of rain for every dairy farmer, for every primary producer, on the days that they wanted it. If I had a magic wand, I would do that. If I had a magic wand, I would influence downward pressure on their input costs, electricity, protein costs, transport costs. If I had a magic wand, I would do that, but I don't. So I have limited tools available to me in this place to influence change. And what the industry says would make an enormous difference is a mandatory code of conduct for the retailers to adhere to, so that there would be an independent adjudicator. It is unfathomable that as a society that we are prepared to sit and watch this industry particularly here in Queensland, where our operational costs, I granted, are higher than the state averages. But milk is such a staple. Milk is a food. Milk is a protein source. Milk is, we pay more for water, bottled water, than we do milk. We pay more for Coca-Cola than we do bottled milk. And yet when you have a look at the health benefits of milk, it is not a product that we can allow to see exit our shop aisles. I have great concern that the aisle with the UHT milk is becoming greater and greater, the square meterage of UHT milk. And I don't know if it's an underlying motivation of the retailers to actually exit the fresh milk sector because of the operational cost to keep it there, the freezer cost. I mean, the retailers took the carbon tax increase in their refrigerant gas, so their operational cost for milk is so much higher. Their labour cost on fresh milk is so much higher because of the rotational cost. Once they put a carton of UHT milk up on the shelf, Mr. Speaker, can I say that can sit there for a number of weeks without the cost of refrigeration, or for months, without the cost of refrigeration or stock rotation. The retailers know quite well the value of milk. They know the value of milk because they strategically place it at the back of their shops so that you have to walk past their other product lines to pick up your staple, your milk and your bread, to return back through the shop. They refer to it as using it as a basket filler. But before time expires, I also want to bring to the attention of the processors that they have a responsibility. There are many profitable parts of their business in yogurts, in cheeses, in the byproducts that are built from cream. We also use a staple, healthy products that are profitable. The message I send to the processor is do not think that the weakest link in this value chain can continue to be the dairy farmer. And I call on the premium groups that negotiate with the processors to understand the value of the product. Because if the processor doesn't have milk for 1 week, can you imagine what the retailer's business model would look like? Because if they're going there to buy milk and bread, and if they didn't have it, well, I don't know, but there is a value component in your negotiations. Do not continue, dairy farmers of Queensland, to accept prices on behalf of farmers, a price that is less than your cost of production. You must rally. I will do everything in my power through this place with my colleagues, with this House, to bring about the change that you need legislatively to compete on an equal playing field. I give you that commitment. I will continue to fight. And I had discussions yesterday with our small business minister, of which I will report back to QDO this afternoon. But there is not one silver bullet that is going to fix this industry. It is a battle that has to be fought on many fronts. The retailers must allow a fair price for a great product in their outlets. Our processors must become far more reasonable with the way that they negotiate with our dairy farmers. We now in Queensland have a situation where the amount of dairy farmers that have exited our market is that we can no longer produce the volumes required for domestic consumption, and we are importing milk out of New South Wales at a higher rate than the farm gate. By the time you put the transport costs on it, it somehow begs as to how this is sustainable. How this is sustainable. My dairy farmers are at a point of desperation. The industry is at a point of desperation. They no longer want lengthy Senate inquiries. They no longer want submissions to be. They want action, and they want it so that they can continue to survive. At the moment, their enterprise, their world is frightfully bleak. And unless we in this place stand and rally, It is an industry that employs more than 43,000 people in this nation. It is not an industry that we can afford to see disappear overnight, and I give them my word. I will continue to fight for their cause.